broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Thursday morning, February the 21st. And thank you for attending today's AIA presentation. And today's presentation is called Roof Market Trends, Fleece Back Membranes. And we'll also cover urethane adhesives. And my name is Greg Jones with Premier Building Products. If you have any questions after the presentation, that you'd like to reach me in the future, my email is greg@premierbldgproducts.com, and my phone number is 704-575-2446. You should have registered your AIA credentials when you registered for the program, but if you did not, feel free to send me an email after the presentation. You can type in a question at any time, and we'll address any questions at the conclusion of the presentation. Let me tell you a little bit about our company, Premier Building Products. We're located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we handle mostly low-slope roofing products. We handle Carlisle Syntex single-ply systems. We handle Metal Era edge metal, fascia and coping, Georgia Pacific's cover boards, and then Bilco's roof hatches and safety products. On the steep slope side, we have some underlayments from Carlisle, and then we have some very high-end, very beautiful terracotta roofing tiles from Ludovici. Carlisle put together this presentation. I'd like to just take a minute and tell you a little bit about Carlisle Construction Materials. They are part of Carlisle Companies, and they manufacture EPDM, TPO, and PVC roof membranes, manufacture polyiso roof insulation, as well as expanded polystyrene insulation, as well as adhesives, cover boards, air barriers, and waterproofing products within Carlisle Construction Materials. This is an AIA accredited presentation, so we will keep everything very generic in nature for this presentation today. And what we're going to talk about today is fleece back single-ply systems. We'll describe why fleece back, adding the benefit of the fleece on the back of the sheet, is very beneficial in your specifications. We'll learn about the physical properties of those products, and we'll take a look at the various types of single-ply membrane options. We'll understand how urethane adhesives are used in conjunction with fleece back membranes and how they are used for installation of insulation and cover boards. And we'll kind of walk through the different attributes of the membranes and why you would use one membrane in one application and another in another application. And then we'll talk about some of the other attributes of fleece back in terms of the durability and sustainability of types of systems. So real quick, what is a fleece back membrane? Well, it is a single-ply membrane with a polyester fleece on the bottom of the single-ply sheet. And so that's just a look at that fleece back as it's being rolled out. This one is a white thermoplastic. And you'll notice that there's a selvage edge on the right-hand side of that roll. And so there's a selvage on the fleece so you can heat weld the seams on a thermoplastic fleece back system. If that was an EPDM rubber system, you would have tape on that side of the roll for joining those side laps. So the components of a roof assembly start with the roof deck. You have insulation. Typically you would have a cover board, membrane, and then edge metal. And so when choosing the right membrane to specify, there's many questions that you and your client will ask. What is the budget of the client? What climate zone are they located in? Do we want a white roof or do we want a black roof? Is the building in a high wind zone? Are you in a high hail area? Are there a lot of HVAC equipment units on the roof that need to be serviced that will lead to a lot of foot traffic on the roof? Big thing to consider is, will the roof be exposed to animal fats, vegetable oils, and petrochemicals? And lastly, are aesthetics important? Will anybody be looking down on this roof out of windows or neighboring buildings? So let's review the different types of single-ply systems. First, some of the attributes of the different choices. And basically it comes down to, there are thermosets and thermoplastic types of single-ply systems. Thermoset is EPDM, ethylene polypropylene diene monomer. Most people would refer to that as rubber. Rubber comes in white or black, and reinforced or unreinforced. A product that's used along with that is butyl and polyepichlorohydrin. Polyepichlorohydrin is used in high areas of animal fats or greases when using EPDM. On the thermoplastic side, we have TPOs, thermoplastic polyolefin, and PVC, polyvinyl chloride. Key difference between a thermoset and a thermoplastic is, a thermoset will use heat welded seams, and a thermoplastic will use heat welded seams, and a thermoset will use tapes or adhesives for seams. So EPDM, rubber, it's a thermoset material, very, very stable physical properties. EPDM left in place is really not affected by UV over time. It has very low and high temperature flexibility, and it can be reinforced or unreinforced. It is the most sustainable roofing material. It lasts for a very, very long period of time, and very advanced and consistent seaming technology with tapes. And as mentioned earlier, it can be black or white. Just a look at an EPDM roof. This one happens to be in Western Pennsylvania with some skylights and solar panels. This is a fully adhered application. When you get into your colder climates, climate zones 4 and higher, you might want to do an energy analysis to determine whether a white roof or a black roof makes sense. With a lot of the energy code requirements requiring R25 greater, in a lot of climate zones, it really doesn't make a tremendous difference what color the roof is. But the key point to consider is, a black roof can be used in many, many different climate zones and be used very, very safely. I'm being told we can't see my screen, so give me 1 second and I will try to correct that. And I apologize for the inconvenience.
Take your video off for a second. Because you could, let me look real quick. You could see it when you started.
I apologize. We will try to get that corrected here really fast. I know your time is very valuable. Okay. So how do you put the tape seams down? You would just fold back the adjoining sheet and apply primer. The tape is already on the roll. Fold that into the adjoining sheet and then pull the release off of the tape. So, quick rundown. EPDM strengths and weaknesses. Longest track record, best UV resistance, best hail resistance, good puncture resistance, available in black or white. One of the things to consider is EPDM is not as resistant to animal fats and vegetable oils and petrochemicals as some of the other products that we'll talk about. Thermoplastic membranes, PVC, polyvinyl chloride, and then you have a product called PVC KEE, which is ketone ethylene ester. And that is a plasticizer additive that goes into PVC that gives it very, very good physical. We'll talk about those. And then TPO thermoplastic polyolefin. So heat welding. This is an up-close view of a heat welding machine. It will distribute very, very hot air in between the two adjoining sheets, and then with the weighted rollers, it will actually melt those sheets slightly and then fuse them together so they are completely adjoined. The thermoplastic products are generally white. There are other colors that are available. We'll first talk about the PVCs, the polyvinyl chlorides. Very, very durable products, have a very good long track record, and they can be recycled. And PVC provides the best fire and chemical and oil of all of the single-ply systems. In terms of burning brand and spread of flame, PVC would be the most resistant to these two types of tests. The burning brand is a test that tests embers from an adjoining or neighboring building landing on the roof, and then spread of flame would be one where in the real world flames would come out of a window and come up over the top of the roof. So the PVC performs the best in terms of these two types of tests. KEE, the ketone ethylene ester, is a plasticizer additive, very high molecular weight. It was introduced in 1973. And the good thing about this heavyweight plasticizer is that it out of that sheet over time. And so it provides that membrane with terrific long-term flexibility. It reduces the dirt pickup. It reduces the impact of mold or any type of algae growing on the top side of the roof. It has excellent chemical resistance and improved abrasion resistance. Some of the pluses and minuses of PVC and KEE. Pluses are that the PVCs have a very long track record, the longest of the thermoplastic offerings, has the best resistance to animal fats, vegetable oils, and petrochemicals. Good reflectivity, available in a number of standard colors, white, gray, and tan, and some specialty colors are also available. Not as resistant to hail as EPDM, and not as resistant to puncture as EPDM or TPO, but good puncture resistance all the same. TPO, thermoplastic polyolefin, is a different makeup than PVC. It does not require plasticizers to give it flexibility. The polymer does not contain any chlorine, good puncture resistance, wide sheet technology, heat welded seams. Very white and reflective. Look at a white thermoplastic. One of the things to consider if you're going up on a roof, on a white thermoplastic roof in either the winter or the summer, is you want to wear some sunglasses. They get very, very bright on a bright sunny day. Also, in the wintertime, you want to be very, very careful about ice that you can't necessarily see forming on the top of those white thermoplastic roofs. So just a few areas of caution with job site visits. TPO, very economical sheet. It is the highest market share product in the single-ply family of products. Mostly because of the high demand for white roofing we've seen over the past 10 or 15 years. TPO can also be self-adhered. There are some clean sheets available. There are some products out there that have actually a removable film that you can specify that when you're finished with constructing the roof, you remove the film and you have a clean white roof. The product has good resistance to animal fats and vegetable oils and petrochemicals. It just isn't as good as the PVC products, but all the same, pretty good resistance. Has the highest reflectivity, good puncture resistance, a number of different types of colors, along with the standard colors of white, gray, and tan. It is the newest of the 3 types of single-ply systems we've discussed. It was introduced in the US in the early 1990s. So EPDM was introduced in the mid-1960s, PVC in the early 1970s, and TPO in the early 1990s. Okay, let's talk about urethane adhesives. They're used for insulation attachment as well as for fleece back single-ply attachment. So it's the same adhesive. It's used in a number of different applications. And some of the advantages of urethane adhesive over metal screws and plates are that metal screws and plates are highly thermally conductive. So you actually get a little bit of R value with the urethane adhesive, not a tremendous amount, but you're not losing R value by using the urethane adhesive versus steel screws and plates. It's low VOC and eliminates the noise and odors, so it's very quiet and odor-free installation, which is particularly important in re-roofing applications of occupied space. Urethane adhesives not having any type of odor doesn't create any disturbance on the inside of the structure. So again, used for insulation and membrane. Does help protect the insulation facer, gives it a little bit of a cushion, and it has terrific wind uplift performance characteristics. The nice thing about the urethane adhesive is it is compatible with a number of different types of roof decks, from concrete decks, lightweight concrete, gypsum, tectum, steel, and wood decks. So really, most any type of deck product can be used. It's also very compatible with all of the different types of insulations, including expanded and extruded polystyrene, and the different types of cover boards that are available. So you can attach the different types of insulation and the cover board with the urethane adhesive. So how do we install the urethane adhesive? It can be installed in a number of different ways. There's different dispensing equipment out on the market. This one is a full spray, and the adhesive can actually be heated with this type of dispensing equipment. It's very efficient, very fast, very uniform. And once that is sprayed, the contractor will allow that to rise for a minute or two, and they'll do what's called a string test, which I'll show you shortly. And then they'll set the insulation into the adhesive after it's been given time to rise. And then they will roll that in with a 150-pound weighted roller to make sure it is fully embedded into that adhesive. You can also install the adhesive in ribbons. And in this application, this is a cover board being installed over insulation. And there are specific patterns for ribbon spacing based on the uplift pressures you're trying to achieve. So there are different ribbon spacings for the field, perimeter, and corner of the roof. As mentioned, a 150-pound weighted roller would be rolled over the insulation to fully embed that into the adhesive. And what this does by using the urethane adhesive and staggering the joints of the insulation is it eliminates the thermal bridging at those joints and the fasteners. And so it's a much more energy efficient system than typical steel screws and plates. So fleece back single plies. So you have EPDMs, TPOs, or PVCs for the weatherability of the membrane. You do have a laminated polyester fleece on the underside of the membrane. And that has many, many attributes that it's going to bring to that single ply system. It will enhance the puncture resistance, 40% on average greater puncture resistance than a bareback single ply system, and 180% greater tear resistance. It also greatly enhances the hail resistance, and there is testing up to 4-inch hail with fleece back systems. And for uplift ratings, it greatly enhances the uplift resistance along with a urethane adhesive. And again, minimally invasive for occupied buildings. It's typically a 55 mil polyester fleece. There are some variations in the thickness of the fleece, and then various thicknesses of the single ply membrane, anywhere from 45, 50, 60, 80, and 90. So some of the ideal areas where you might use these are for long-term occupants of structures, schools, hospitals, data centers, government buildings. It's also an excellent choice for the re-roofing of these types of facilities because of the low odor and no noise. Just to look at the fleece back being installed sequentially, on the left we have ribbons of adhesive, and he will set the fleece back into the ribbons, and then they will roll it in with the 150-pound weighted roller, which you see on the right-hand side. Many different types of dispensing equipment. In this particular application, it's ribbons. And again, the membrane can be white or black in color. EPDM comes in white or black. Of course, TPO and PVC are white, typically gray or tan. Here is a black EPDM installation. They'll align those rolls, and the tape, as you can see, is already on the back side of that fleece back roll. And the attributes for puncture resistance are pretty impressive. So the dynamic puncture resistance, according to ASTM D5635, compares EPDM in various thicknesses to a number of different SBS 2-ply modified systems. And in this test, you generally drop a blunt object onto the membrane and see if it ruptures the membrane. So there are testing results for EPDM in this type of test, as well as TPO and PVC. And all three of the membrane categories exceeded the puncture resistance of a 2-ply SBS modified system. There's also a federal 101C puncture test. In this test, they take a blunt object and force it through the membrane. And so you take a couple of different mil thicknesses of the single ply system, and you look at it and compare and contrast with the fleece back. And you can also compare with other types of systems. So that simple fleece adds a tremendous amount of resistance to the overall resistance of the single ply product. We have videos of both of these tests, unfortunately, through a web webcast, it's hard to pull the video through on this type of presentation. So, available membrane adhesive options. There are a number of different options available. You have and most of them are low VOC. So you have the two-part urethane, which we showed you for the insulation attachment. You also have water-based bonding adhesives. Fleece backs can also be installed in hot asphalt or cold applied asphaltic products. In this picture, they're using a water-based adhesive. You have a urethane adhesive and ribbon spacing. In this particular instance, they're using a dual cartridge application. And that's fine for smaller jobs, but typically if it's a larger job, you'd use a little bit more sophisticated dispensing equipment for the urethane adhesive. What they will do is they will dispense that urethane adhesive and they will let it rise. When it comes out as a liquid, it's very quickly, in about a minute or two, it will rise, and with a pair of gloves, the contractor will check that adhesive, and so they will take a small portion of it and they'll check to see if there's string in between their fingers before they apply either the insulation or the membrane. And once they put the membrane into that adhesive, they want to roll it in really quickly and make sure they have a good bond. A little bit better equipment, a little more efficient in using the ribbon style. Quick contrast here between the previous slide, which is kind of the rolling into the adhesive, versus what we would call the barn door method, where they fold a sheet over on itself. You can do this in short runs because there is a window of time where that adhesive has risen from a liquid form, but you don't want it skimming too hard over the top surface. So if it's a very, very long run, you might want to go with this application method versus the barn door. Nice look at the ribbons after they've had time to rise. And there are specific membrane adhesive spacings for the field, perimeter, and corner. So the contractor will know exactly what type of system or ribbon spacing they need to use in those critical areas. Contractor is checking, and then they will be rolling. Look at the full spray method for the membrane, and you can see that they have a screen on the right-hand side of the picture as a caution for overspraying the adhesive. It's a pretty nice uniform spray, very quick. Not as popular in the Carolinas, but Asphalt Attachment is available with a heavier duty fleece backing. There are certain clients that truly like asphalt. They've used it for many, many years. They've used it in BUR systems, and they've used it in modified bitumen systems. They're very comfortable with it, but they like the reflectivity of single ply, and so there are some systems available for an asphaltic base ply, and then in essence a heavier duty fleece backed single ply as a cap sheet. Must use extreme caution with this one so you're not tracking asphalt over that brand new white roof. There are also some cold process asphalt attachment systems available for either the EPDM or the TPO or PVC. So it is an option, and a redundant multi-ply system is certainly an option with fleece back for your clients that like a two-ply system. Critical thing is to make sure that it is rolled in at the conclusion across the entire membrane. And then with a thermoplastic, you will then heat weld the seams. You'll heat weld the side laps where you had the selvage on the fleece, and then you will strip in the end laps. You will firmly butt those end laps together and strip them in and heat weld a cover strip over top of that end lap. On the EPDM option, the tape will be on the roll. And so they will simply apply the primer, let that tack off, and then fold that tape into that primed area and pull the release, and you'll have a finished seam. So Fleeceback EPDM is available in 100 mil, 115, and 145 mil. That includes the 55 mil fleece thickness, and that is available in white or black. So with the 115 mil, there are some tremendous attributes. 67% thicker than the industry standard 60 mil, 40% greater puncture resistance, and 180% greater tear resistance. Regarding TPO or Fleeceback, available in 100, 115, and 135 mil total thickness in white, gray, or tan. And again, 67% thicker, 30% greater puncture resistance, 33% greater tear resistance on the TPO and PVC. One nice thing to note is when comparing with a modified bitumen system, you generally have 75% fewer seams because you have wider rolls with a single ply system. Most of your problems will come in the seam area, so by having 75% fewer seams, you're eliminating a lot of areas for problems. There is a new product out with a special heavier duty fleece that is used for wood decks, and a tremendous amount of apartment complexes are being built around the entire United States that have a wood deck, and most of the time, or a lot of the time, the insulation requirements are on the underside of the deck. So there is a new Fleeceback that can be mechanically attached to a wood deck and achieve a Class A rating with no underlayment. There's also a brand new Fleeceback that is fully adhered that has no adhesive. I said that correctly. There is a new fully adhered Fleeceback available with no adhesive, and it consists of a hook and loop attachment, kind of like what you'd see with Velcro. And so there's a special facer on the top side of the insulation and or cover board, and then the fleece hooks in to the fleece loop hooks into the face hook, and it is fully adhered with no adhesive. Brand new technology, brand new product, and it should solve a lot of problems for particularly cold weather applications where adhesives are sensitive to cold temperatures and low VOC, low odor concerns. So some examples of Fleeceback in action. This is the convention hall in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Very large, wide, expansive, sloped steel deck. And the choice was for multiple layers of insulation, cover board and the urethane adhesive for the long-term durability of this roof system. One of the nice things is you can take that field membrane and run it right up a parapet wall, so it would be a continuous membrane. Now, you do not have to install it that way in most cases. You can use a bare-backed single ply of the same type on the parapet wall, but you do have the option to run the fleece back straight up the parapet wall, which would eliminate a seam or joint there at that angle change. Kind of a further away view of this system. Where the system's performance really came into play was when Hurricane Sandy hit the Northeast coast back in 2012. And there were very, very high wind speeds in the New York, New Jersey area, which created a tremendous amount of damage to many, many buildings. There was a situation where there was a fleece back system being installed. It was in progress. It was not even finished. And the membrane survived while still in progress and had no damage right in the middle of the storm. Another example is a roof installed back in 1996 on a very large airport hangar, and there was a Class 5 tornado, and there was very, very minimal damage to the roof and tremendous amount of damage in many, many different areas. So the uplift ratings are pretty impressive. On a concrete deck, you can achieve a 990 PSF to a sprayed polyurethane, or 945 direct to concrete, or 945 to polyiso. 990 PSF polyiso adhered to a vapor barrier. So you'll see that there are very, very high uplift tests using urethane adhesive and fleece back systems. Let's take a look at hail resistance. When you look at this map, you see that the south central region of the United States suffers from the most hailstorms, but here in the Carolinas, you can see right along Interstate 85 and in the center of the state of South Carolina and Columbia, those are considered fairly high hail areas. So hail is a consideration. So fleece back membranes have passed a Class 4 hail impact resistance and the FM severe hail, and the EPDM and TPO have passed the NBS hail test 3 inches at 32 degrees. There's also a great option for recovery systems over existing mod bit and smooth BUR roofs. You can also go over gravel surface BUR and coal tar pitch. You do have to put down a layer of insulation. You would suck up the loose gravel as best as possible and then put down a layer of insulation and urethane adhesive, and then the fleece back system on top of that. You can also use it for a standing seam metal retrofit, and insulation would be required in the flutes. And you can also use it over aged single ply systems, as well as old SPF systems. So it's very, very adaptable to a number of different types of situations. For an existing BUR, you have the deck from the bottom, number 7. You'd add, you have insulation underneath the BUR number 5, and then you'd add a layer of insulation over top of that, and then the fleece back on top of the insulation and or coverboard. You can also re-roof directly over an aged granular surface modified bitumen. As well as aged single ply. So if you have an existing EPDM, you can go over that EPDM with a new EPDM fleece back system. One of the things you probably want to consider is to keep a light color over a light color. So if it was a black single ply system, you might want to go over that with a black fleece back system. Great choice for over a standing seam metal retrofit. Very minimal disturbance to the interior occupants. You're adding some insulation with the urethane adhesive. You're adding insulation in the flutes, and then a secondary layer, and then the fleece back over top of it. The nice thing too about fleece back is from various manufacturers, the warranty coverage options, and typically you can get some hail coverage. There's some accidental puncture coverage that is available, and it is covered through man hours of repairs over the course of the years of the warranty. And typically there's no additional charge for this additional coverage when using the fleece back systems. So quick summary of the fleece back systems and the two-part urethane adhesives for insulation attachment and for membrane attachment. We reviewed the weatherability characteristics, the strengths, and some of the weaknesses of the EPDM, TPO, and the PVC. We discussed toughness, durability, and productivity. We looked at some of the wind uplift resistance. We talked about thermal loss mitigation by using. We looked at some of the hail resistance, and we talked about the no VOC adhesives, both the urethane and some of the water-based adhesives, the non-penetrating options, and the new non-adhesive option for a fully adhered system. So many, many different options available for fleece back systems. I'll look to see if there's any questions. You can either type in the question now, I'll look right now. And again, if you have any questions in the future, feel free to email me at greg@premierbuildingproducts.com. And my telephone number is 704-575-2446. And I'm checking on any questions we have here. Does anyone make a white EPDM fleece back? Yes, white EPDM fleece back is available. And are all possible adhesive securements available for EPDM? Yes. All right, I apologize for the problems with the slides earlier. One more question.
How do you seam a non-adhesive membrane?
How do you seam a non-adhesive membrane? So it would be, this particular product is available in EPDM or TPO. And if it's TPO, you would heat weld the seams. There would be a selvage on the fleece, just like if it was going to be installed with urethane adhesive. And if it's EPDM, there will be tape on the roll, the same as it would be if it was installed with urethane adhesive. So the hook and the loop will take place in lieu of the adhesive, and the seaming would take place exactly as it would if you were using adhesive. Hope that answers your question. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for attending. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties, and we will try not to make that error in the future. And we appreciate your interest in the program, and we'll keep you up to speed on future programs. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.